And that was Ceresu Funeral by Sheena Ringo. And welcome to Radio Graffiti on Newgrounds Radio with your host, Gens. And tonight, on our very special episode, we have guest Nug, aka Top Nug on Newgrounds. Welcome to the show, Nug.
Hello, hello, hello. How
And
are
for,
you?
yeah, doing good. For anybody wondering on who Nug is, Nug has been the winner of the recent Sweet 16 comic project contest on Newgrounds, hosted by I forget who the host for the Sweet 16 comic project. Whoops.
Kitty Hawk Contras.
Thank you, Kitty. As I was like researching that like all day today, and I was like, okay, make sure I say this properly, and then I forgot it immediately as soon
Oh
as the show
no.
started. But
It's okay, I came in clutch.
thank you. But Nug here has been the first place winner of the Sweet 16 comic contest on Newgrounds. And out of how many entrants were there? Like around 200 entrants?
Approximately, I think, I want to say about 130-ish.
Okay.
That's still a lot.
130 different people came through the contest. For anybody listening and wanting to know what the contest was about, on Newgrounds, pretty much the Sweet 16 contest was set up in a way where independent creators could just make a 16-page comic, hence the term Sweet 16. And you had to tell whatever story you could tell within that 16 pages, cover not included, and you submit it, throw the tag in there, and through a panel of judges, you would be determined, like, if you make it to the top, what was it, 10 people overall that got, like, shouted out?
I think so.
Yeah. And Nug over here has won first place in the contest with her comic. What was it? Funeral? No. I just put it up yesterday too. Funny Burger Fishing.
Yeah.
And it is how to describe it. Funny Burger is an action comedy horror story. How would you describe it? Because that's how I read it.
That sounds pretty accurate. It's meant to have a little bit of humor. Um, it's got the action and it's got the horror.
Yeah, it has a lot of really intricately detailed body horror within it too.
Yeah, especially the first episode which I put out not for the comment contest, but just for myself. I made another 6 page, which was sort of like my intro into doing like a little short form thing.
Yeah, and was this the first like short form? No, not short form, but like, have you been doing a lot of like short form comics in the past?
Not really. Like I said, this is like sort of my first foray into a smaller thing. I guess you could count some of my other, I guess, omake, the side bonus stuff that I do for my main series, but besides that, not really. And especially the 16-page format, I had never really worked within a constraint before, so it was a learning process to be able to do that properly and still pace out a story as tightly as it was intended to be.
You've made a lot of like really good use. I'm just flipping through it again, and you've had like a lot of really good use of the page format, how you structure your paneling too.
Yeah. One thing I like to say as something I've heard around, KISS, keep it simple, stupid. So um, I don't really go too far out of what I know.
Mm-hmm.
I stick very close to what I know and what's simple and easy. And for what I think, I guess my sort of philosophy for how I tackle those is it's not necessarily what the panels themselves that matter, the shape, or whatever. It's what's in them. So rid of making whatever I'm putting there appropriate or good.
So you're just focusing on. Was this one written first, or did you start drawing it immediately? I just wanted to like figure that out first.
Oh, I have a process. So I do structure things in a little way. I try to I knock out what I want to do first in like a basic format, just kind of get all the beats down,
Mm-hmm.
and then things get put into like a rough draft and then put it into a script. Sometimes scripts get edited like 8 times before I'm happy with it, which ends in a lot of funny final names, by the way.
Yeah,
But
like draft one, draft final, final, draft final, final, final.
another draft, another final draft. Yeah, it's like that. It's kind of gotten ridiculous lately. Um, but yeah, I am not the kind of person to really jump into things, so I try to have as much plan beforehand as I can. For Funny Burger 2 specifically, I did not really work on that one for very long.
Mm-hmm.
We had a lot of ideas already kind of floating around, right? So, it was pretty easy to quickly put something together. Uh, I did not really credit Squiggs on this, who is my boyfriend, by the way.
Yep.
He helps me with the other story because that's sort of like our collab project. But he still did give me a lot of great ideas, especially with the ending, I guess, scene with the other demon getting his neck sliced by the knife. That was all his idea, so credit to him. He's really great about providing just really cool and fantastic ideas like that.
The one with knife that comes through the portal at the end of it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
No, that was really cool. I liked a lot of the way how everything was detailed and presented. It like felt very fantastical, very fantasy
Thanks.
oriented. And I feel like I really I really like it a lot. And that's how I was first introduced to your work. And then afterwards I went ahead and started reading City of the Sun. And I was like, whoa, this is a whole entire proper story and narrative. So like, if you guys liked Funny Burger and you liked, a little bit of the taste of where Nug and Squig can like develop a story and turn it into, please check out City of the Sun. I have it up on screen for the people on YouTube, but for anybody listening, just I'm hoping you can go on Google and type City of the Sun
Oh yeah. It
and get
should
to it. City of the Sun
should
webcomic.
link. I think one of the first links that pops up should be Tapas.
Yeah, it should be the
Um,
tapas link. Yeah.
and then there are like a million manga reader aggregate sites who have picked it up recently.
Wait, for real?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, because I remember you posted on Twitter like mangaka a lot. Some people have been like scouring through it and just trying to find like new things to put on there.
Yeah, I think it does it automatically. So, I put it on Manga Dex first, and I think that's eventually kind of got the pirate. But okay, I don't really make a whole lot of money from it anyway. It's always meant to be different. So, there-
Oh, you broke up just a little bit over there. You said I remember the last thing you said. You put it up on Manga Dex and then you started breaking up. What'd you say?
oh no,
No, you're all good.
I said, I said, I'm pretty sure it got picked up from there. Like that's probably the source of that. But it being hosted on pirate sites is not really a big deal to me. It's always intended to be free for people to read, so
Yeah.
that sort of thing doesn't bother me too much.
It's kind of funny because it's just like, you guys could already read it for free right here. But then like I guess everyone just wants it like on the one site. where they can read
Yeah,
everything. Yeah.
I do see it like that. It makes the statistics a little bit hard to read when things are spread out, but it's already mirrored in so many other places. I guess it doesn't matter too much.
Yeah. And I was wondering when you guys started City of the Sun. When did you and Squig
Well,
first develop this project?
uh, it is essentially a mishmash of our characters and stories
Hmm.
that existed prior to that. So one day, back sometime in like I think 2012, we were riding a bus um, from our downtown, and we just kind of got this idea where it's like, what if, uh, what if what if our characters did this, and what if there was like a lab that had it's like a giant pharmaceutical, but they are manufacturing pharmaceutical products from monsters, and there's a funny origin to that. Um, if you ever watched Helsing,
Yeah.
and I'm a pretty big Helsing fan,
Yep.
um, there is a single line, just one line, near the beginning of the series where they mention a laboratory. And my mind just kind of sprung out of control because I think at the time I was watching the OVA,
Yep.
and I was like, "Ooh, yeah, that'd be really cool." And I guess it just kind of spiraled from there. Um, I started I started trying to draw it in about 2013 or so. I have a really horrible looking pilot lying around that nobody is ever going to be allowed to look at. Um, but I think at that time I wasn't really like super into manga, but I always kind of wanted to make a comic. Uh, I guess when I was younger, I kind of thought when I saw, mangaka as a job in Japan or something like that, I'm like, oh, I can't be in Japan. I can't do that, right? And this was probably back in I don't know, 2006 or something like that.
Yeah.
So access to certain resources really was not easy. Um, it wasn't until around that time, about 2014, where I realized I can get paper, I can get pens, I can really do this myself traditionally if I wanted to. I just need to develop the skills for it. And so I eventually moved from trying to do it digitally to just pen and paper, and then using my scanner, using computer programs in conjunction with that, I can put out a really good looking product.
Yeah, I would
So
say so. I
yeah.
mean, everything looks really nice and clean and crisp.
Hmm. It did take a lot of time to develop all those skills that I need to get where I am now, but I think it'll always be kind of like a work in progress on that end. I think always be figuring out something that I can do better, or uh, a new way of writing something, or just some other way to improve this story. Yeah, kind of things to say.
Yeah, no. I mean, it looks that way. I wonder, do you do like tones in digitally? Like halftones?
Oh, funny thing about that. So, I do not like the look of digital tones.
Got it.
Uh, I've got there's a bit of skill curve to figuring out how to get it to look good
Hmm.
online, but I didn't like the way the digital tones looked because when they're scaled down, they have a higher chance of producing like a Moire effect
Yeah.
because each and every single dot is exactly the same. Uh, unless you if you don't know, a
Yep.
screen tone is comprised of dots on a gray sort of like flat pattern. Um, but the did sorry, the traditional tone,
Hmm.
when dots are printed, they're all kind of like wobbly looking, and this produces a really nice texture. yeah, even when scaled down, you can kind of see the difference. So what I did is I found an online site I could buy sheets of tone for about $3.50. So I bought about $50 worth of tone, and I scanned them all in 600 DPI, and I just used them forever.
Oh wow, that's such an interesting workaround. Okay.
Yeah, and I really love the way they look, but because they're $3.50 and very hard to get and becoming harder and harder to obtain, even online, it's just more economical for me to purchase them once than to continue having to buy them, spend hundreds of dollars on screen tone.
Yeah, I would have
Um,
never guessed that like you would have done it that way. Oh man, that's really cool.
yeah, I actually needed to upgrade my PC to handle it because it's so advanced, um, that my computer turned into a complete slug. And it's the entire reason I moved to using Clip Studio Paint because I think for a long time I was using Paint Tool Sci, and it would just run out of memory and start erroring and crashing
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
just go.
Psy was not built for crazy things like
Oh
that. Yeah.
no! It's like the page size I work in is like 7,000 by 9,000, so it hates that.
Yeah. But you said you moved on to Clip Studio Paint, right?
It took some adjustment, but it was very much worth it. It's a good program.
But yeah, and you said you do everything traditionally. You said there was a point where you were thinking about working digitally?
I did. I did start digitally. Actually, I started trying to put pages together in Photoshop. The very first time I did it, I would just use the line tool to make all my panel borders, and it took forever.
Yeah.
Um, it was awful. One of the reasons why I switched to traditional is just um, I could not help myself from zooming in. Like I would zoom in and I would do little that no one can see, and it would be so tedious and hurt my hands. But what's nice about traditional pages is that you're permanently zoomed out, so you have full focus of what you're doing the entire time, and that just helps with speed. Like I went from taking about 3 days to do one page to doing one page a day, so it works for me very well. But I think it's different for everybody for sure.
Oh yeah. No, and you also do all the paneling traditionally too, right?
Yes.
That is really cool. Do you like sketch things out first or do you have like thumbnails that you start up with when you begin like a chapter or so?
Um, I think, as I said before, I'm very structured. I'm kind of very meticulous because I'm not good at being spontaneous. I think I read that you're not really that way, and that surprises me. I don't know how you do it.
Oh yeah, it's how do I structure my own things? I pretty much set an outline. I originally had a script. I started like the very first two chapters of my comic started with a script, and then I started doing a lot of minor adjustments to the script as I was working on the comic. And then I would be doing this constant back and forth of do the script, finish a page, I adjusted something slightly within the final page, and then I have to readjust everything in my script. And that process was driving me insane. So I just decided to be like, okay, it's time for just outlines. I structured the beginning of a storyline and the very end of a storyline. And then everything that happens in between, I can figure out as I'm making the comic. And that's what I
Yeah,
do currently. And
yeah,
it helps me get things done.
yeah. That's what I mean. Everybody does it differently.
Yeah.
There's some people who just throw down lines on a page and they don't have a script at all. They just ball hard, and then things get done. It looks great, and I'm just like, I can't do that. But
Magicians.
yeah, yeah.
Without
Oh
even
my
a plan,
gosh.
they just start working. I have a friend like that actually. I'm gonna do a quick shout out to Ashley Loop on Twitter right now. For anybody listening, search Ashley Loop, all one word, Loob. is the last part of her name. It's not Lube like Lube. It's Loob. And Ash is gonna be making a comic soon, and the way how she does everything is just straight through. She comes up with her characters, and then she just starts drawing, and I'm hyper impressed by it.
Yeah, that's just ridiculous. Yeah, I wish I had that skill. But no. I thumbnail everything first, and I've got it taped up. I actually have it taped up in front of me on my CPU, which sits on my desk. So I'm always looking at it, and it's a little reminder. It's just kind of looking at me like, you're not finished yet. But yeah, I need the thumbnails there to tell me what to do, and I do change things a lot. I try not to, but I do still end up changing things like dialogue, or I'll go back through. I'll fix a thumbnail, or sometimes I'll just rewrite an entire story or episode like halfway through. And that's kind of what happened with Funny Burger 2 is I wasn't used to working within a constraint of 16 pages or
Hmm.
any ever, because I always try to allow myself some flexibility. But towards the end there, I think the very last section after the fight was over, the first draft of that was really rushed, and I ended up having to make some unfortunate sacrifices. You know what they say, kill your darlings or whatever.
Yeah.
Uh, End product was a lot more satisfactory than what I originally had because it was just I had like a page or two to basically squeeze in everything before the final scene, like the last
The
page or
spread
so.
page.
Mhm. And I think originally I was gonna plan for that to be a two-page spread, not just one. But I settled on one, and I think it worked out just fine. I'd love to challenge myself on that more in the future.
It came out really well. Like again, I'm just scrolling through it, and again, for people on YouTube who are watching, like the final, like how everything got structured and laid out, and it came out really well. I feel like it's a very nice bow tie to the end of the story.
Oh yeah, that got Squiggs had another great idea. Um, uh, where he's like, have her delivering a plate in the beginning, and then have her doing it again in the ending, but this time she's got like a lot of it, right?
Yeah.
Because she's like serving up so much food. And I think that's just, I really love it when a story just kind of ties up very well. And I was like, oh, yeah, that's really good.
You know
He's
what? I
always
did.
got
I
a
didn't
great
even
idea.
notice that. It was so subtle. Like yeah, in the very first like introduction, she's just holding like a small like tray with a hot dog and rice, and then like she's holding up like entire like what are these like
It's just
pans?
like yeah, a giant like turkey pan of like noodles.
Yeah. Again, if for
That's
anybody
another.
listening, yeah, just go look up Funny Burger Fishing on Newgrounds right now, and you will find it. And it's just like again, really good, very quick read, super fun all throughout. But yeah, you were saying
I
the
want to quickly mention
yeah.
the hot dog and rice.
Hmm.
Okay, so I'm half Korean. My mom is Korean, and I grew up under her influence. So so we had a very interesting kind of household, and I also have met like a lot of Koreans from like overseas as like students and stuff.
Right, right, right.
Uh, so the setting is in sort of like the outskirts of a city, a small town in Korea. And I really wanted to tackle a setting which was sort of like more familiar with, I guess, my other half. I've been twice, so I have a lot kind of like mental reference too. I like I kind of remember as I was doing it, I was sort of like remembering um, the mannerisms of students who didn't know English that well, and this is pretty much why Walnut talks the way she does, is because um,
Oh, it
she
makes
she
sense.
speaks
Got it. Yeah.
yeah she speaks in demon, right, but I kind of structured her broken English as someone who is not like a native English speaker.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, I definitely see that.
Yeah, and if you're not too familiar, uh, Koreans have a lot of like kind of like weird food things going on. We got the weird kind of Costco kimchi, where you just put like ketchup on sauerkraut from your hot dogs, and like spam is a big thing in Korea, and there's just a lot of really weird things that I just kind of wanted to show. And a hot dog with rice is is one of those.
Yeah, no, I definitely can see that. Yeah, where you just have rice as a side to everything.
Yeah.
No, it's really cool. I like it a lot. I like both of the stories. It's nice to know the context going into it, where it's just like, oh hey, it's not just like it's like a Walnut is a demon that's just like living as a foreign exchange, not student, but like a entity
Hmm.
trying to make it through on like the real world. I would assume.
Hmm.
Yeah, and it's very fun to just see, and how the character evolves and follows through with different adventures. I also like the
Yeah,
funny burger.
oh, the burger.
Yeah,
Everyone loves him. Yeah, I went balls to the wall on drawing that. I wanted it to be as weird as possible.
that came out really well. I would assume
Yeah.
like your influences are like Dorohedoro and you said Helsing too.
Yeah, I think that's probably more relevant to the other work, but Doro Doro and Die Dark,
Oh,
basically
Die
just
Dark.
Hayashida Q in general. I just love her style of humor. I think it fits me very well. I like weird, cruel humor,
Yeah, I
but
would
not
say
too.
that fits for Funny Burger.
Yeah, I was surprised to see how many people liked it when I first put it out. It got a great reception.
Yeah, no, it genuinely was very funny. I was like, whoa, I want to see more of this. That's what I was thinking. And then I was like, let me see what other stuff you do. And then I found City of the Sun, which is like a very different sort of story, but still has
Oh
a lot
yeah.
of it still has dark comedy elements within it.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I don't know if you're familiar with Cat Soup. It's a little manga series. It also goes by Neko Jiro So, which just means cat soup. But
Mm-hmm.
um, it's basically just cruel humor. The comic. It's sort of like diary styled. There's an animation that was made posthumously because the author died. But it encapsulates everything I like about um, cruel humor, I guess. I don't even know how to describe it, but it's one of my big influences for
I
humor.
I definitely got to
Probably
check this
that.
out because I'm just looking at it right now and it looks very absurd
Yeah, it's pretty funny.
in a lot of different ways. I love the cat's expressions within the manga
Yeah, it's
itself. Yeah,
surprisingly influential. I see people who are inspired by the style of it all the time.
I'm starting to notice. Yeah, where a lot of people's like stylistic influences come from, especially when I start discovering things like this, and I'm like, oh, that makes sense. Cat soup for anybody listening. You can just go look it up right now, and I'm gonna definitely gonna be picking this up and checking it out because it looks very funny.
It's very cute. I do have sorry plans to do another funny burger in the future.
Oh, nice! I'm excited.
After after doing the 15-page story, it did take me longer than I normally would have because I was working with a new setting and new character. It takes a little bit for my time, little bit of time to switch modes, but um, I guess I'm not really ready to kind of just jump back into it.
I got you. I mean, comics
I
do take a while.
yeah, last year was kind of hectic for me. It's nice that it ended the way it did. I really didn't expect to win. You know, there was a lot of competition. For me, I genuinely just didn't think that that it was gonna, you know, even place first. You know, that was kind of crazy. But I do hear and I know people would like to see another one. But I think I just focus on my main series for now.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Kitty Hawk.
Order.
Another shout out to Kitty Hawk, because thank you for putting that contest out to motivate people to make something. And it was really cool. I mean,
Yeah.
I like a lot of the submissions there that were put up. I've discovered like a bunch of new artists on Newgrounds through the Sweet 16 contest. I was thinking about making
Yeah.
one myself, and I was like, nah, I'm already working on something else in the meantime. And I don't know if I had it in me to like work on another story. But there was a lot of very interesting things within Sweet 16
Yeah.
comic. Again,
I'm surprised how many how many different stories actually got entered. There's
yeah,
a lot.
especially towards the end when everyone was starting to upload, and I was like, oh, this is a lot to just swallow at once.
Mm-hmm.
And Kitty Hawk and the panel of judges that were reviewing every single one of them, props to you guys. Because I would have struggled trying to like, organize everything and trying to pick out like a winner between everything too. Oh man, that's like a nightmare.
Yeah. Yeah. I read a lot of them myself as well. Unfortunately, I couldn't read the deal all the way through because I wasn't smart enough to figure out how to get the reader to function, but also my connection is so bad I couldn't load pages. I did want to read it though.
The deal was very fun. Just for anybody listening right now, look up Deadspread 83 on Newgrounds, and you can find the full comic for the deal right there through his account or their account. And that was a very fun one. I liked a lot of the colors within the deal and the way how the textures were handled.
Yeah, I'm happy to see that Bobo Baba in his comic, Breakers, um, place. Because what I was thinking as I was waiting for the judges to decide is that even if I don't win, I wanted him to win.
Yeah, shout out again to Bobo Baba as well. I love his stuff. Like he also shares things with me every now and then, and I'm very like he has very stylish looking characters and worlds.
Oh yeah, it was incredible. I looked at that and I was just like, this is tight, you know, it's fun, you know, it was full of action. That's why I'm so surprised that I won because I was like, that's my competition, man. I'm not, you know,
I feel that.
there's no way. But here I am, $500 richer.
Yep, that's right. There was a cash prize for people listening. Stay on Newgrounds, kids. You never know when there's gonna be a contest that you can enter and you can win $500. And every
Yeah.
month, if you want to participate, because like Newgrounds, if you're an animator or if you make games, Tom Fulp does announce like the best of the month, the top 5, and people usually get cash prizes for that too.
Yeah, this is actually my first time even entering any contest.
Oh, really?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, I'm not really gonna count like some elementary school
Oh, well,
art
yeah, fair,
contest.
fair, fair.
I did win an elementary school art contest, but I'm not counting that one.
Fair enough.
And
The
it's not a strategy or something. It was just a huge mess of like drawings. I think it's very absurd.
Hey, I mean, you start somewhere. You
True,
know, a
true.
contest winner since you were back in elementary, and then work your way up. But I definitely feel like you can like submit this to other like proper contests.
Oh, trust me, I thought about it. At the same time that that contest got announced, Viz Media actually opened their submissions, and they don't do that very much. But I had a lot of time to think about whether I wanted to do that or not, um, because people have been telling me they really like Funny Burger a lot, and I structured it in the way that it's short form, it's attention grabbing, it's very easy to read, you know. Um, so it was designed specifically for like a low attention span, and I had a feeling that it it has the potential to be something that people could potentially want or something I could sell, right? But I had to sit back and think about whether that's what I actually wanted to do. Because as you know, being a professional does take a lot of time, and I've got something that I already love, and I love working on it, and I don't want to change anything about it. So I
You're talking about
don't
City
want
of the
anything.
Sun, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I don't want anything to take my time away from it. I work on it pretty much full time. I'm very lucky to have somebody supporting me um, while I do that, but it is basically what I think about all the time, and I kind of go crazy if I don't work on it. So even though I could possibly have something monetizable on my hands, I I just don't really feel like I want to do it for the rest of my life. Do you know what I mean?
I feel that. Like, for you, Funny Burger is just something that you enjoy doing every once in a while, like whenever an idea comes up.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Um, I've got more ideas for it, but I think for now I'm happy just using it as sort of like a window for people to see my work.
Yeah. No, and again, it worked for me. I saw Funny Burger and I was like, huh, let me check out this other stuff. And I'm like, whoa, this is just like a massive epic of a comic for
Yeah, I
City of the Sun.
it is a little intimidating for people, I must admit, because attention spans are they're a bit brief these days, and City of the Sun is a long form. It's a drama on top of that. I try not to get myself down about it because one of my favorite shows, Better Call Saul,
Yeah.
um, also very uh, slow burn drama sort of show,
Hmm.
didn't really have great ratings until pretty close to the end there, despite the show being fantastic. It's just people have trouble sitting through like long things like they what's the word? Uh Delayed gratification is harder to come by in people looking for entertainment.
Yeah, I feel that. I mean, I personally love stories that, slow burn and then, set up, set up, set up into payoff. And it's like usually grand payoff too. And it only like is better because it's built up in that way. Breaking Bad also does that a lot too.
Yeah.
And I remember the Helsing OVA also had like slow build-ups too to like the finale where everything just became all action all at once, and that was
Yeah,
very fun.
yeah.
And yeah,
I
you're
do
you're
try
saying
to
yeah.
focus on like having an appropriate payoff for it. But it still does. It still is really hard to get someone's attention to get them to sit through it is takes a lot, I'd say. And maybe it hasn't worked out too well for me. But I kind of accepted it.
Hey, I
That's just the
mean,
way it be.
I mean, I'm reading it and I'm liking it. You've got like a new fan out of me at the very least.
Great.
And
That's
I'm pretty
awesome.
sure other people are going to be like, I'm hoping people will listen. Again, for anybody listening, if you want a really cool webcomic to follow, check out City of the Sun.
It's full of blood and it's got moments of action. It's got people getting beat up. It's got violence, it's anything you want if you're into dramas with like Helsing or Dorohedoro, because those are my main inspirations, right?
It's got monster hunters, it's got supernatural beings within a modern setting, which is my personal favorite genre.
It's got homeless people. Oh gosh, I gotta tell you, a lot of my personal experience goes into that story too. I used to work at a factory, not I think a handful of years ago, and if you've ever worked in that kind of, I guess, sector of business, they will hire anybody. I mean
Yeah,
anybody.
you deal with all sorts. And
Yeah,
yeah,
you pass drug tests and you're pretty much good to go. I'm pretty sure people are still doing drugs when you go in there, because it's not like you got to take it again.
yeah, I've been
But
hearing a
oh
lot of
man,
stories about Amazon warehouses because like my friends used to work at them.
yeah, it was not good. But it met a lot of interesting folks, and definitely added to the Nugget life experience level. So a lot of my personal experience with people, I'd say I classify them as being fringe dwellers.
Fringe
Uh,
dwellers. Yeah.
yes, fringe dwellers. Kind of goes into some of the people in that story. Uh, oh my gosh, I have a lot of stories. There was this one lady who the the night manager. I worked a graveyard shift. She came over to our line to talk to this lady I was working, and she's like, "You can't leave your kids in the car in the parking lot." To be clear, we work 10 to 12-hour shifts, so that was quite a long time to be leaving your kids in a car.
Oh my god.
They were turning the lights on and off, but every now
Because
and
they're
then she.
bored because they're trapped in a car.
It was cold too. I think that was back in like December or January or something of that
That's
year.
insane. But yeah,
Yeah,
that is
but
actually NPC behavior of just like dropping your children there and leaving them there. What the hell?
yeah, she oh gosh, she was so stressed out. I empathize with her, like having troubles and stuff, because it was not a great time there either. But but she was like, oh, I'm homeless. I got no place for my kids, and I think I caught her one time. I caught her dozing off, standing up. That
I
poor
mean,
lady.
with the amount of work that I expect, like, the manual labor that goes into it, I mean, I wouldn't necessarily blame her.
Oh yeah, no at all. And then it was graveyard shift, so it was anywhere from 5 p.m. to 5 a.m. every night. It was brutal. Um, but yeah, speaking of characters, people, inspiring characters, the character of Manny, who in the story he's a monster hunter. He's not very good at his job. he's more like a wannabe, right?
Yeah,
He's
I
he's
actually
just
like
not.
him because of that. Because he's just like he's trying.
He is trying so hard. He wants to be that ooh flashy. I want to like chop up monsters with swords, and he's a huge weeaboo. But part of his attitude was inspired by this one kid I met while I was working there, and he's got a great story. It's I won't give away all the details, but uh, yeah, he was just like, he's just a dude. He goes outside on break. He's like vaping in the parking lot, and he wears his hat backwards, and he's got trouble with an old guy. I saw him like this dude is a perfect fit. I
That's
love drawing my inspirations from real people.
oh, I mean that's what I do with my own webcomic. I don't have like a single like original character except the first character in my first storyline, but everything else is just like, hey, I'm just basing it off like people that I've met in life, and I feel like that helps add like a lot of what's the word, realism or like believability to the characters,
Yeah.
because like they start acting like tropes and they start acting like people you've seen, and I
You
definitely
get
get
a
that
more
out of
in-depth
City of
look.
the Sun. Yeah.
Yeah, you get a more in-depth look at how to write people when you know how people act and behave. So I feel like that definitely sets apart somebody who with a lot of life experience versus somebody who just doesn't have it yet.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Having worked where I have in life and going all the different places I've been to, um, I feel like that's definitely colored this work in a positive way, uh, and not in any negative sort of way at all. Um, I even took a trip to New Orleans some years back too, and I got a lot of cool experiences out of that. It wasn't for very long, but it was great. I I saw a lot when we were in Baton Rouge, which is one of the locations of the story. Kind of coming up, but it's getting there.
Classic New Orleans lands. New Orleans.
Man, we never had an experience dealing with so much water. We drove through a Walmart parking lot, and Squiggs saw a puddle. He's like, "I'm gonna go right through it." And that puddle went up to the door of the car,
Oh
like
my
about a
god.
foot away. It was so deep.
You're
It
dealing
was
with
so
a
deep.
proper swamp right there. Oh my god.
That thing was almost a sinkhole. And man, almost probably about 2/3 of every car you saw had some sort of accident dent in it. That place is a mess, but I love it. I wouldn't live there, but I enjoyed my time being there.
No, I mean like, your experiences color the stories that you tell. And it makes for entertaining stories, and like, I'm starting to like draw like conclusions with the way how I'm reading City of the Sun right now. And it's just like, oh yeah, no, I can definitely see this type of person from this type of place. And I'm
Hmm.
like, yeah, this makes sense.
Yeah, like uh, like the guy in the beginning who Ryland is talking to. Um, he ended up being a bit of a snitch. Because
Mm-hmm.
a lot of people are like, they make it seem like they're uh they're in it for other people, right? Like he did. Um, but they have very self-centered interests. They think that oh, I'm doing it for myself too. That makes it all right. I don't know. I love writing side characters. Squiggs has a thing about me where he's like, you can't write a side character without giving him a whole ass backstory. And I really can't help it. Um, a lot of characters which don't even really get you don't get to see them for longer than a page, fully fleshed out for like no reason at all. I just can't help myself.
Yeah, I feel that too. It's just like whenever I'm like designing a character or if I'm writing a character, I'm thinking, no, they need to have a life outside of just the story. And I mean, it's fun. I won't go into it like in the actual narrative, but like I like to have it just in case.
Yeah, it's like I come up with something in like 2 minutes. I have their entire life story down for like no reason.
You just know everything about them just to better understand them. I got you. You
Yeah.
playing God with the world. And as far as Squiggs and how he handles the writing, right?
hmm
How does his process work if you know it at all?
Um. Well. Hmm. Trying to think about how to quantify it. Well, I think what we'll normally do is whenever we're trying to get some stuff down, I kind of go over it with him, and he'll give me his advice, or he'll start shooting me ideas, and we'll go back and forth with stuff. Um, and then I just have it in a big block of text, and I figure out how to structure everything from there. I don't want him to get down about being an idea guy sometimes, but sometimes you need an idea guy, and I'm a person who really needs the idea guy because I'm not that creative. I'm not getting down on myself, but I really appreciate his input. He's very good at coming up with great ideas.
I mean, that's how stories start. You don't start just
Oh yeah.
writing. You start with an idea first,
Mhm.
and then everything
Yeah.
falls into place afterwards.
He does have the tendency of beating himself up about it sometimes, but I really do appreciate him, you know, for having that sort of like skill, even if he isn't the artist on it. He does draw, by the way, and not saying that. Um, but um, but I handle all the art. I handle all the art of the comic.
And you said you do the. Wait, does he do the storyboards? You said he did storyboards.
He helps me with outlining stuff, and
Gotcha.
if I need him to like check over whether something like sounds right, or whether I guess like dialogue, or whether like scene to scene things are sounding okay, goes through him always.
It's nice having that like editor mindset with it. Whereas, because sometimes like some people like I myself have this struggle too, where like it turns into like an echo chamber inside my own head
Oh
about
yeah,
moving like a narrative forward, and it's nice to have like another set of eyes to bounce ideas off of.
absolutely. I'm terrible about that. I definitely need somebody to just kind of like slap me every now and then, um, in a good way. Uh, Cause what'll happen is I get caught in my head. I'll start thinking, "Oh, this is terrible," you know, and I need somebody to reel me back. And he's there for that every time. It's great having somebody who can just kind of like pull you out of the funk from thinking that everything you're doing is like wrong. Because what I've learned is that sometimes your ideas can be very good, but in an equal way where people will think only their stuff is good, there are also people who think only everything they do is bad,
Yeah.
right? When they can have a lot of great ideas. So it's important to have somebody out there who can fish you out of that.
Yeah, because like you cannot get stuck. You gotta just figure out like what do I need to do to move things forward, because that's how stories need to move.
Speaking of moving things forward, probably one of the things that I learned to do that's most important is just uh, doing it and moving on, not lingering on things too much. And especially in regards to fixing things, I don't like to get into a loop where I'm going back to fix things over and over and over again, just because I think that some bit of art just looks wrong, or even like little kind of like grammatical errors and stuff. I think it's very valuable to leave things pretty much intact as they are to see, so other people can see how things have improved as you've gone on. And I've heard from some people that they actually really like seeing that sort of thing.
No, I agree. Same here. I love seeing people's development throughout a series. That's why I love webcomics. I really like webcomics. And manga too. Manga also has this too, where you can see like how an artist starts and then how they develop as it goes along. And it's very fun to see.
Oh
And it's
yeah.
very motivating too.
Oh, absolutely. Um, there, I'm sure that there's a handful of things that errors and stuff that I've done kind of earlyish on, and I've been told the art is kind of rough too, but I really don't like to think too much about it because this is City of the Sun is on. I'm on this for the long haul. I'm only about 17 and a half published chapters in, and it's gonna be a long story, barely even past the beginning. It's not even up to like halfway through the arc, so I don't try to think about it too much, even if I do get down on it every now and then, because the fact of the matter is like it's not gonna matter all that much.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, why waste your time like going back and like fixing things when you already have like more things you need to do, right?
Yeah.
Better to spend that energy on things going forward.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
I feel that way with my own stuff too. With my own comic, I'm like, oh man, I wish I handled like this bit or this chapter a bit differently. But I'm like, you know what? It's just part of the process. It's gonna get better as it goes on.
Yeah, and I think the thing that's fair to mention is that so long as it's not fundamentally broken, people are just gonna kind of like look at it, go, huh, and then move on.
Yeah, it's not like you're doing an intense retcon
Hmm.
or something like that, like a narrative
Yeah.
retcon. But yeah, it's. I was gonna ask, do you have like any other webcomics that you read? Since we're on the topic of
Hmm.
webcomics.
Oh, well, there is a comic that I'm really into,
Mm-hmm.
that started as a web comic, but I printed and I bought a couple of books. So it would be Steve Lichtman. I love Steve Lichtman. Have you read it?
No, I haven't.
Oh my gosh, you're missing out. Please read it. It is the funniest thing I've ever read. I'll read it. I've probably read it over
I'm
several
I'm checking it out
times.
right now, and it looks very funny. This just like
Yeah.
Lich and like he's being introduced to this Conan the Barbarian. Wait, let me go to the first thing. Oh no, this is the first thing. Okay, this Conan-esque figure. Oh man, this is really cool.
Dave and Dan are genius comedy writers, and I do take a lot of inspiration from that comic for my own like humor. I think about it a lot.
I really dig this. I'm looking through it right now. Yeah, no, it's very funny. Yeah, Steve Lichman. For anybody listening right now, if you can like search that up right now, you can go through this like neat webcomic. This is another one to just add to my collection of things that I'm reading. Is it ongoing or?
He said he's been working on a third volume because there's two volumes worth of work. Um, but he's been at it for a long time, so I can't expect it soon. But I do hope they do finish it sometime soon. They start publishing new pages because I really really love it. I can't even tell you.
Well, I'm glad to add this to my repertoire.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, it's hilarious. It's full of a lot of '80s humor and stuff too. And it's like there's a lot of little callbacks to like video games and like Magic the Gathering, just like nerd stuff in general. So if you're that kind of person who likes those sorts of things, you probably enjoy it.
Yeah, I'm even seeing like some Gundam references over here.
Yeah.
I'm the get go. Yeah, no, I'm. This is definitely like a fun. Thank you for the recommend.
Oh, no problem. I always like sharing that. I'm kind of like the little Steve Lichman proselytizer, spreading the good word about Steve. I'm the Steve shill.
The Steve shill. You see, this is what we gotta do as comic artists. We just gotta constantly shill others. Let people know what they're missing out on.
Yeah. I love I got one thing that I really love, and that's the nerd group dynamic. Like, I don't know how familiar you are with Casey Green,
Oh yeah,
and his
yeah. The nerd club, something nerd
yeah,
club. Yeah.
anime club.
Oh, anime club. Yeah. Whoops.
I like that kind of like little group dynamic where it's just like a bunch of little nerds doing stuff. Um, the character, Manny, again, he's actually been around for a long time. I didn't implement him the way um he started off until kind of recent-ish, because the story went through a complete and total rewrite. I had 5 chapters, and then I did it over completely from start to finish, and I smashed through 12 chapters in a year. And he was one of the pieces of the story that got totally overhauled. I made him fat. I made him stupid. And I also just like focused on making him a very interesting person. He started off as like basically a little cartoon that didn't look anything like he does now, but he was based on Will Keith. And not sure how familiar you are with Will Keith, but he's this guy on YouTube who just takes katanas and like slices up water bottles. He started
I've
all
seen.
that.
Yes, yes. Oh my god.
He's great.
Oh, I see
I
it now.
actually, yeah, he looked. His little cartoon drawing looked just like Will Keith, and his thing was that he was obsessed with zombies. Like each member of the group had their own little obsession, and his was zombies. And sometime later, I'm gonna get back to that aspect, but have another friend who really likes him. Because he's like a video game guy, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he's very in that sphere of like what he calls card lords.
Cart lards.
Card lord, yeah.
Oh,
People who play Magic
oh,
and
cardboard,
go to like,
cardboard, cardboard. Yeah.
yeah, card tournaments and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Very special groups of individuals. Oh my gosh, where was I even going with that?
No, nerd
Yeah,
culture. Yeah.
he loves. I guess he just kind of like loves it as like a bit of parody, which is what it's intended to sort of be.
Yeah,
I
but he's
think
also his own
parodies.
character too, which is interesting. Like, how does
Oh
he deal
yeah,
with like everything around him?
yeah, absolutely. There's one thing I feel like is important to point out about him, right? Is that he's a bit of a comedic relief, but I I don't want him to be a caricature, and I put a lot of focus into him, like not being just a cartoon of a human being. I had a commenter who said something really interesting, and I really appreciate what they said. They said that they didn't sympathize with him much in the beginning of the story until the last chapter that he was in. And that is exactly how I wanted them to feel. And I was so proud of that when I heard that I connected with somebody and they knew exactly what my intentions were. when it kind of all came to a head.
Yeah, no, that's what I've been like. That's where I'm caught up with right now in the comic. Like, towards that bit, like, the whole bit with his dad, or like that conflict. And I was like,
Yeah,
whoa.
yeah, he was sort of meant to be sort of like laughed at the beginning of the story. He's antagonistic. He's a bit of an asshole. You know, we get to
He's,
see
I see him,
nobody
I see
likes him.
him when I first started reading it. I saw him as like someone who was like in over his head,
Oh yeah,
and that's
yeah.
how I took that character. And I'm just like, okay, where does he go? How does he legitimize himself, or how do you say that word?
Hmm. Legitimize?
Legitimize, yeah. How does he legitimize himself? And I'm
Yeah.
like, that's where I got the intrigue for that character. And he's like kind of like currently my favorite.
Sometimes Squigs would bring it up to me. He's like, should Manny have been the main character? Because he's actually really interesting.
Yeah, he's maneuvering in this crazy like alternate world that's like so far removed from like normal life, and like he's just trying like, and he's not dead. He's
Yeah.
almost been dead multiple times, but he's still around. Spoilers.
He's very lucky. But but yeah, I'm very proud of how I've written him, and he was not really intended to even be a character when I first wrote him in. He was supposed to just be like a one and done kind of encounter. Um, Apparently, Breaking Bad, Jesse Pinkman was also sort of written that way, where he was kind of not intended to come back after a period of time,
Well, it's
which
a good thing
surprised
that they
me.
did not do that.
Yeah. When I was rewriting this story, I was really focusing on him. And the what I just said, he was not really intended to be there, but he kind of ended up being a pillar. I guess all great stories have like a kind of trio thing going on, right? Where it's
Yeah.
like, in a way, I can think of a lot that kind of worked that way, but he definitely did ended up working out like that, and it kind of ended up being what the story really needed to tie itself together. And I'm really happy about that because I like him a lot.
Yeah, he's very fun. He's very entertaining. It kept me reading the comic. So,
I'm so glad. I've been dying to talk about just like the characters and stuff for like ever.
you said it started off as you and Squiggs's what was it? Your original characters and putting them throughout a story or within a narrative.
Yeah, it was just a mishmash of worlds. But it kind of just spiraled out of control. Uh, we just started thinking of more and more stuff for it, and uh, and it got really fascinating. And one day I'm just like, we need to take all of our ideas and like put them in stone somehow. And it's just like, I'm gonna make this into a comic for us to enjoy. So even though I put it online, at the end of the day, this is sort of like our thing, right?
Yeah.
I feel like this is sort of our way of remembering the great ideas and the late nights we'd spend just talking about cool stuff that we thought of that day, and just stuff like that. Like, it's kind of like a little monument to that. And that's one of the things that's most important to me about it, about doing it, or about finishing it. So I think about that a lot.
I mean, if it motivates you to continue working, I mean, you are your best audience. That's what I usually tell people. Because, like, the story that you want to say and the stories that mean something to you to say or to put out there, are usually like the most interesting ones, in my opinion. Because like I'm thinking about like other things that I like, and I feel like they're all very self-satisfying as works go. Like you mentioned, Helsing. Helsing is also one of my favorites,
Mhm. Oh, I
and
love it. I got a little Alucard fig.
yeah, and Kota Hirano, the mangaka for Helsing, he just puts all the things that he likes within that story,
Yeah, like his thing, gloves and like glasses.
and like his obsession with like military weaponry and airsoft.
Yeah,
The guy is also notorious for going into hiatus a lot, because like he's just like he has so many special interests outside of working on his things. Like
I
Drifters.
didn't
I
know
don't know if you
that.
read Drifters.
I did read some of Drifters. I didn't really get caught up with it.
Well, lucky you, because like it's on hiatus. It's been on hiatus for a long time.
How long?
Uh, Let me see. The last time was reading it was like 3 years ago, and he only updated
Oh,
like one chapter.
oh wow.
He also did
Well,
this throughout Hellsing too,
hmm.
which is why you have the original anime for Hellsing, and then you have the OVA, because the original
Yeah,
anime was just like it had to detract from like the story and do its own thing
yeah,
because Hirano did not finish it.
yeah. I actually in the past that's how they handled a lot of TV OVAs. Full Metal Alchemist was the same, where it kind of just went to a weird place because they had to start thinking of new stuff.
Oh yeah, they also picked up Full Metal Alchemist like super early on
Mm-hmm.
when they decided to like make an anime. And was it a monthly release? I think it was a monthly release back in the day.
I don't know. I don't think I was. I don't think I was reading it when it was still coming out. I was a little too young,
Yeah,
I
no, I
think.
feel that. But I mean, it makes sense where it's just like, oh hey, they picked it up, and then they had no hope to get enough like source material to keep up with anime production.
Yeah, I never watched the original TV Helsing, but I heard it's not that good.
I won't say it's terrible because it has the best anime soundtrack I've ever heard.
Hmm.
I'm not even being like hyperbolic or hyperbolic. I'm not I'm not giving hyperbole there. It's genuinely one of my favorite anime OSTs.
Well, I'll take your word for it.
Raid and Ruin, for anybody's search Helsing Raid and Helsing Ruin, and they have really good tracks in there. And I kind of wish like the OVA used those tracks still, but it's okay.
I don't think. Well, I can't recall. It's been a long time. I know it didn't really have opening, but I don't remember the soundtrack for the OVA. I think my favorite OVA soundtrack is probably Elfen Lied.
Oh yeah,
But
that
it's
one
been a long
was
time since
really
I've
good.
seen that too. Extremely edgy, but I love the
Very
piano.
edgy, but yeah,
Yeah, I was into that when I was 13, 14.
I was too young and then too interested in all this stuff.
I was watching episodes on YouTube.
Yeah, YouTube and Daily Motion. That's what I remember. Where everything was broken up into like multiple parts, just to upload.
Yeah, but I love the piano pieces, and I even like tried to learn how to play some of them too on keyboard, even though I'm terrible. I
Oh, nice.
don't really know how to play. But I loved it back then, so
And
I don't really watch a whole lot of anime these days.
oh, same here. I just ran out of time. I don't know if you're the same way, because like I'm spending most of my free time just working on my stuff, like my comic.
Yeah, yeah, I do. The problem is that I can't really watch anything. I mostly just listen to while I'm working on stuff. but unfortunately watching kind of requires my eyes, so I don't really I can't really devote much of my time to sitting down and like watching episodes or movies or anything like that.
Yeah, it's I mean, okay, I'll make an exception every now and then where like I'll devote like a weekend to just checking some things out. Like I watch Common Rider,
Hmm.
and I was very happy that this new season of or new series of Common Rider is something that I'm not super excited about. So I just am ignoring it because I don't like it that much. So now I have more free time to work.
It's kind of funny.
The last series, I was obsessed. I was watching every week. But yeah, uh, you said outside of manga, what other inspirations and like real life? Do you have any other inspirations that go into City of the Sun?
Oh gosh, there must be. Kind of. There I do have a bit of an obsession with just sort of like derelict buildings and like things that are falling apart and just really old stuff with history behind it. That's kind of put a lot into like the setting and the background and stuff.
Mm-hmm,
I grew up in a small town and we had a giant empty building smack dab in the middle of it, and it was hard to ignore, especially for a little kid like me or any of the little kids who grew up in that town. Kind of always fantasize about ooh, what's in there, because it's big and it's empty and it's got so many windows and it's got like a musty basement. And there are just a lot of things about my childhood that have to do with like broken down stuff and like things that are decaying. I'm just a decay fan. I just love looking at decay.
no,
And that
I can definitely see that within your work.
yeah, that shows up a lot. So I think that that one's a big one for sure. It's not as easy to pinpoint as maybe like a stylistic influence
Mm.
or anything like that, but I'd still say it's a very important influence on some of my choices. Um, I guess the other one would be just kind of an appreciation for just a standard American Gothic kind of feel. Because I'm a small town kind of girl.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
I take a lot from where I grew up and the very quaint, I guess, aspects of American uh, small towns and stuff. So I really like drawing that into what I really wanted to target the most when I was drawing this is that I wanted a setting that really felt like it's a place you could go or that it's a place you can see. Um, a lot of it is a dystopian kind of setting, right? Which is not the same as an apocalyptic. Dystopia is just things are falling down, the crumbling. Um, it did pull a lot from my kind of like views of the world as sort of being like things are not great. But but it's kind of twisted, right? Like there's a lot of fantasy elements. The funny thing about that, the way the setting is sort of written is that I technically started it in 2014 and it ended up predicting a lot of stuff that happened unintentionally. Uh,
I'm trying to read through it and trying to like pick up like what specific bits. But you're gonna have
um,
to help me out here.
uh, pandemic,
Oh yeah.
um, huge economic downturn, homeless camps everywhere, cities just look like trash. I'd say it's not as bad because of course it's a fantasy, right? Yeah, I'm kind of hamming it up a little bit, but at the time when I wrote it, the world was kind of different. It was a different place. And I certainly did not expect to see it where it was going to go. That would be anywhere near, close to similar to how I written it at the time.
Right, right, right.
But I pay attention to the state of the world in a way. I like mysteries, right? So that's part of it too. It's just sort of like, ooh, what if? What if there was a gigantic pharmaceutical company which is hiding a laboratory somewhere and farming monsters to make new pills and drugs. Wow, what if? What if there was a place under the Arctic where they were doing all this stuff? Wouldn't that be crazy?
You know
Just
what?
stuff like
Yeah, it's. I mean, that's a lot of what makes an interesting story. Like you're thinking about like this, but like hey, what if we add this type of spin to it? Or what if we throw this supernatural element to it?
yeah.
And you see that a lot again within City of the Sun, and it's very again. I keep saying it, and I really want people to just like start reading it. It's very good. You can read it on Tapas, or you could read it on the website. I'm gonna be linking it in everything that I can find. But yeah,
Yeah, and it uploads a new chapter every month without fail. So no worries about like random hiatuses, at least not without a warning. Um, if I do ever have to take off for a little bit, I always give ample advance if something is like come up or I gotta be somewhere or yeah, I've fallen behind because got some stuff to do or something like that. Like last year, had a lot of moving things. As you know, that could take a lot of time.
yeah,
But yeah, I'm pretty proud of being able to be very punctual in that sort of way, and I hope that people notice so that they put the sort of trust in my abilities and continue to read it without thinking that I'm just gonna drop off the face of the earth because I know that's unfortunately common. Not everyone can really help it, you know.
yeah.
Um,
It's just the nature of like when you're working on a project like this, and then life starts happening, where like there are things that are happening in your real life that you cannot ignore, and it's tough to like balance everything out. So you have to like pick your battles, figure out what you need to sacrifice. And some people with webcomics, they just have to sacrifice their webcomic for a while. And
yeah,
that's what happens.
the story barely moved at all. In an entire 7 years that I was trying to work on it. Because I only really restarted this a couple of years ago, or a few years ago at this point. It's almost been 3 years since I started doing it consistently. But prior to that, there wasn't much of it at all. Um, that really got me down for a long time because it's like I decided, yeah, this is my destiny. I really want to do this, and then I couldn't. I practically watched the years of my life just kind of like zip by, and I was like, this is never gonna get done. Ah.
Yeah, that's been the nightmare scenario because it's just like what I've been hearing personally throughout my own life is just like, oh no, work on your career or whatever, and then like when you retire, you can do whatever you want. And I'm like, I'll be too old.
Yeah, and it's like, time is not going to go backwards, and comics are probably one of those things that take the most time. The average time it takes for a manga series, to be completed is about 10 years. So, what I'm thinking is that, I've started on this already. My 20s are gone. I'm going to be 40 or 50 by the time this is wrapped up now. Given a lot of people start, when they're 30 years old on their big series, right?
Yeah,
So that's kind of normal. Um, But yeah, I kind of just thinking about that. And like I said, I'm in it for the long haul. I will be old by the time it's possibly completed. I can't say what's gonna happen tomorrow for sure, but assuming I can continue this as long as I wish, um, that's how much time it's gonna take. And yeah, you can't take it for granted at all.
No, absolutely. Like, do the most that you can with what you have, and like, that's why I've been like trying to tell people, like, if you can just chip away at like whatever project you're working on, just go ahead and do it, because like you start waiting too long, it's just never gonna happen.
Hmm. Yeah. I have a couple of friends who are like that, where it's like they want it to be perfect by the time they start on it, right? But all of this stuff is you gotta have the experience to make it good or worthwhile. You can't just sit around waiting for
Yeah,
you to feel like you're at the right skill or whatever.
you gotta be willing for it to be a little bad, to be a little
Oh
bit
yeah.
bad.
The most improvement I have ever made as an artist has been doing this consistently. Um, Prior to that, it really hadn't moved very fast at all. And pretty happy about that, but I guess there are days I do wish it didn't get to this point where I had to wait. But life is sort of like one of those things where you can't. There are certain things you can't change, right? So there's no use really sort of like crying over what you couldn't do because um, that's just the kind of thing that the kind of curveball you've been thrown, and you have to deal with it as it comes.
Yeah, and again, I've said it before, people just get better. I don't think I've ever seen an artist that like literally got worse the longer that they kept working on it at it.
Yeah, not worse for sure.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. I'd say that probably one of the most important things to me is that I didn't always start off with the kind of motivation that I have today to work on this. I kind of put it off, uh, a lot, so I'm kind of to blame on that end. But it took a lot of pain to kind of like reach this point where it's like I I have a accurate depiction of the time it's going to take for me to do this, and I know where I'm going to end up if I don't complete it or if I don't start working on it, right?
Yeah.
And I I kind of understood how valuable these things are to me, and I said I'm going to do this now. If I have the time, that's what I want to spend my time on. And that's the reason I'm able to kind of put out things as much or as fast as I can. Cause I admit, this is what I'm made to do. And I really hoped that when I put out Funny Burger, people kind of would feel that or they would connect to it on like a deeper level without even realizing it, maybe. Because you know how sometimes where it's like somebody's passion will show through whatever they're doing, right?
Yeah.
And it can happen in a negative way too, where it's like you forced this out and everybody noticed, right? So it's like that.
I feel like, as long as, again, if you put like genuine like passion into something, like it'll resonate with people no matter what. It's not like you're working like the difference between like trying to pander to an audience versus pandering to yourself.
Mm.
Because like, an audience is flippant a lot of the time.
Oh yeah.
Work for just like one particular audience in mind, you're gonna like alienate other people, and it's better to just, again, you've done it with like every single one of your projects so far, where it's just, hey, I'm just doing my own thing, and like I'm doing what I want to say and what I want to do. And I feel like that's what resonated with me personally, and I feel like that's what's resonating with a lot of people. I know other people that like have followed your work for a while, and they're like, "Oh yeah, no, I love her stuff." Or like people that are like, "I've been mutuals with this person for a while." And I'm like, "Huh, I just discovered them through the Newgrounds project. Whoa, I feel like I've been missing out."
You mentioned that. It kind of makes me wonder, like, what is going around that I don't know about? It's just something that's kind of got me curious. I mentioned I uploaded Funny Burger to Magadex, right?
Yeah,
It's somebody pulled out a Brazilian translation. Oh, sorry, not Brazilian. Brazilian Portuguese. They
yeah.
translated it into Brazilian Portuguese. I'm like, huh?
I
Why?
need to find this. I mean, they liked it that much.
Yeah, and it's like I just kind of I guess it makes my brain just kind of like go. It's like are you guys just kind of like huddling up in a favela looking at this comic and I just think it's I think it's hilarious. And also it is very flattering to think about, there are people out there who we've never seen or met who have a lot of thoughts to share. And maybe they don't say much, but it's the thought that counts. That they're thinking about your work and they think it's great or there's something about it that they really enjoy, right? You got fans who will never say a word to you,
Yeah,
and that's just how it is.
I mean, a lot of art is that way too, because like it tends to be like a very passive and personal thing that people go through, especially comics. Because like you're not doing a group read of comics. Like you can do that with a show. You can watch a show with somebody and talk about it. But like comics is very personal because like no one's reading the comic the same way. Everyone has their own method of pacing, like how they read a panel or whatever. So it's
Yeah.
it's it's tough to like share that experience with people because like everyone's like experiencing it in slightly different ways
Yeah.
versus like film where there is only the way that you're presented and then
Hmm.
everything else is just your opinion.
Yeah, absolutely. I kind of observed that, between people I've talked to, where it's like someone will pop out with an opinion, or it's like, where did that come from?
Yeah.
What? and and you get very predictable opinions too, but occasionally somebody will say something, and it's like, I don't know what part of your brain that you thought that.
Yeah.
It reminds me of I was taking a peek at a random webcomic one time, and there was just this dude who would comment every single page. He had a comment to say where he's like, "I don't understand what's going on. Why did she do this?" And then the next page would have them do the thing.
Yeah.
Um,
And it's just like,
so
oh, okay.
he would he would fiercely interrogate them on very minor choices to their page or things that are going on which were very clearly spelled out. And I guess that's the thing about people, readers specifically, is that um, you can never predict what someone's gonna think, right?
Yeah.
Um, Everyone is gonna see it in a different way. Maybe not each and every single person is gonna see it completely differently, but there will definitely be people who are not fitting into like your typical readership. They have very interesting things to say.
Yeah. In a lot of ways, I feel like, oh, it's a blessing in disguise to have like a small reader base where like you don't have a lot of like crazy people going insane.
Oh yeah, even professionals like Hirohiko Araki described in his book Manga in Theory and Practice. He had a bit where he drew like the wrong kind of train or something like that, and all the train people just jumped on him like that kind of train doesn't run on that rail, and and he got dogpiled by the train people. So it can happen to anybody, to be
Yeah.
honest.
Like some people, I mean, at the very least, they're that passionate about your work that they have to say something about it.
True, yeah. Or they're just passionate about trains and you take
Yeah,
them off.
and you're the one person that was like, nah, you are not as passionately crazy about trains as I am. And it's like, man, I'm
Listen,
I'm not
I'm
writing a train story.
I'm that way about birds, okay? I love owls. If you draw the feet wrong, I'm there pointing it out. I just say, that's not right. That's wrong. You drew a bird wrong. I'll say it. I love birds too much.
You'll be the one person that'd be like, that's not how birds work. I mean, like, if you're gonna be like drawing something, eh, there's gonna be reference. So like, you're not gonna be
Mm,
making it like, even if you stylize it in a way that's like, atypical or doesn't look like proper reality, there's still gonna be elements that are like proper, just stylized.
yeah, yeah.
And then there are people that just will draw something based off like their assumption of what it is, and I'm like, yeah,
Yeah.
I'm not
Did
I'm
you
not
ever
too
read?
picky, but yeah, continue.
Did you ever read Beastars?
Yes.
I stopped. I stopped at I think the end of like the first story, like where it kind of like ended up being a complete story, right?
Hmm.
And it kind of like introduced some important characters to Legoshi. Um, I kind of felt like the way she handled animals was a little strange. Towards the end there where I dropped it off. But I feel like this is kind of in regards to what you're talking about, where it's like you can tell if somebody drew something with no reference versus where they're uh, stylizing it, right?
Yeah.
And I almost felt like she wasn't drawing with a reference. And it's like you draw a comic about animals. Why doesn't this look like the animal it's supposed to?
Yeah. She's better about with some animals than others.
Yeah, and it was so angry. I'm like, this isn't a horse.
Yeah. Or the way the how lions look. But yeah.
Yeah,
It
that's definitely one of those little things.
but it has a lot of fans. It's not about like the art element of it. Sometimes people just really like the writing, and I think everyone that's reading Beastars or watching Beastars is just a fan of how it's presented, like how the
Yeah,
narrative flows and the structure goes.
yeah, I enjoyed it. I thought it did get a little ridiculous at the point where I dropped it off, but I liked it. Up to that point, I thought it was great.
It
It
gets
was a
more
lot of fun.
ridiculous. Don't worry.
That is, that's almost stereotypical Japanese fashion, right? Where it's gotta be a little absurd.
No, it's just the way how stakes. Like, I'm not gonna go too into it. That's a whole separate discussion, and it's just like I don't want to like put a negative opinion out on Beastars. But
It's
again,
okay.
like you can definitely tell like yeah, this was the daughter of the person that made Baki.
I forget that. I forget about that.
Yeah, everyone forgets. I constantly remember, and I'm like, oh, huh, okay, this makes sense now.
I
Esp-
do appreciate this silliness, though, even when the stakes are raised.
yeah, and I'm like, yeah, no, it- it's a lot of fun. You see, that's my thing. It's just like as long as something is fun, like I'll like continue participating and like reading the material.
That is true.
That was me and Soul
Yeah.
Eater. Soul Eater like doesn't really make a lot of like narrative cohesion. Like it doesn't have like a lot of narrative cohesion. It's kind of confusing a lot of the time,
Mm,
but it's still fun all the way throughout.
yeah.
Versus
I never
Naruto.
I never got into Soul Eater, but I do resonate with the whole it's gotta be fun. That's one of those things that Squiggs kept telling me. We were working on the entry, right?
Yeah.
He's like, doesn't matter. exactly, how the details are landing, but it's got to be fun. And I think sometimes people forget that, uh that's sort of like the heart of a short story is it's really got to be entertaining in some way.
Yeah.
Um, and we really focused on that aspect specifically. And I think that's, if I got to contribute something making it successful, it's probably got to be one of them.
I like. I'm just going through Funny Burger again, and it's just I like the way how you draw like the little monsters that she's fishing out in the lake.
Yeah, they're all just kind of like random glop.
How does it feel like redrawing them? Like you draw them in like one particular angle, and then you have to like draw them at a different angle.
Oh, you mean like the characters?
No, the creatures specifically.
Oh, the creatures. It's tough for sure. I what I normally do is I'd kind of just like run myself through it a couple of times, where I'll just like draw it until I feel like I've got the hang of it, and then uh, yeah, just do it. Um, I don't really feel like her body plan was all that complicated. I did have a lot of like lumps and bumps. And originally she didn't have a tail, but that would have given her a huge butt and it would have been weird, so that's where that came from.
Okay, interesting. The design process of like how the characters turn up.
Yeah,
And yeah, no, I think it's time now we can move on to some reader questions.
absolutely.
Just give me like a second just to get everything. Hold on. Walk out and like get it because like I left them in the different part of the room. I cannot just tab them out because like my Twitter won't let me see certain things. But yeah, sorry for the bit of the delay. Okay. Oh, Pastel Fire on Twitter at FrailBulb asks, "How's y'all's day going?" Okay, so how's your day going?
It's been going pretty fine. Squiggs is a little under the weather, so I've been taking care of him.
Oh
But
no, get better, Squigs.
yeah, he woke up feeling a little better today. His fever's gone down. He's back in bed, but I'm confident he'll be okay enough tomorrow to go back to work. But it's been an average day around here in the Nugget household. It's been cold as hell.
Oh yeah, it's been freezing up here where I'm at,
Man, yeah, it's
and
been an ordeal.
were you working on any comics today or not?
Oh yeah, I had three more that I need to go through. I've been sort of like relaxing a little bit on my pace, but I was in the middle of the second one before we went on.
Nice. Yeah.
Um,
No, so that was the same thing with me. I was working on my pages for my comic
yeah,
because I
I'm
like
about
to.
halfway through the next chapter.
Nice. Oh yeah, I wanted to ask, how long do you usually try and keep chapters?
How long? Anywhere from maybe about 15 to 20 pages. I try to not have them go on too long because I think at most I finish like one a day. But um, if I were doing one a day every day of the month, I would have no time for anything. And it gets a little hard to live like that. I
Yeah.
have pushed myself that hard, and it's tough.
So you try and like get out around like 10 to 15 pages a month, I assume.
Uh, about 15, maybe closing on 20. I think the most I've done is about 32 pages a month. But
Oh yeah.
that was me, pushing really hard, really, really hard.
Yeah, I remember I myself tried to like do like a page a day for a month for like the 4th year anniversary of my comic, and it's doable, but and I can definitely still have a life outside of it, but it's just very very tight time management.
Yeah, the great thing about me is that I don't have a life outside of it. So,
Hey,
so yeah, all of my time goes to it.
the other question was, what's your favorite and least favorite food?
My favorite food is meat. I love raw meat and vinegar. I love vinegar.
Raw meat and
Um,
vinegar. Do you have like any particular like? Do you have like a farm near you where you can get like?
we probably have some farms. We do have a local butcher shop I've been meaning to go to, but I haven't. Yeah.
Gotcha. I'm just thinking about where do you get your raw meat? It's just like,
Oh, I just every now and then will like grab a ribeye, and I just don't like my ribeye cooked for very long. I just kind of throw it on the pan, get the outside seared, and you're good to go. Some people think it's disgusting, but I don't care.
fair enough. I'm just like, that's really like, huh? And vinegar.
Yeah. Oh, I'm just in love with vinegar. I got introduced to mint sauce, and it just has to go all over my steak and potatoes.
Mint
It's like drenched.
sauce. Wait,
Yeah,
what's?
mint sauce is made for like lamb. It's like a little British thing, but
Oh, I mean, like, I would assume so because lamb needs as much like things to put on top of it to like get rid of the gaminess. Mint
I've never
sauce.
really had it much. Yeah, I love mint sauce. It's just tasty. It's like sweet vinegar, and I make my own now because my favorite brand went discontinued.
You make your own mint sauce? Interesting.
Yeah, it's very easy.
Wait, how do you make mint sauce? I'm just very curious right now.
Well, mint sauce is basically just vinegar, water, and leaves, mint leaves. So, I'll grab some mint leaves. I'll chop them up, and I think you strain those. It's a little bit of a process, but it's not too difficult. And you need like malt vinegar, but you can try it with other vinegars. But I use malt,
Okay, and
and
like you
it's
pair your meat with mint vinegar. Huh.
yeah.
I'm very I'm okay, I'm curious now. Like I need to like see if I can find like some nice raw meat that just won't kill me.
Well, the nice thing about steak and not ground beef, I
Yeah.
don't eat raw ground beef, is that uh you don't really have to worry about tapeworms in beef because one of the reasons why it's so important you don't eat like raw pork is because pigs uh almost always have tapeworms because they're omnivores. They got their mouths all over everything. That's not to say that beef tapeworms don't exist, but super super rare, really really rare. They have to be doing something very wrong
Yeah.
with the cows in order for that to be like a problem. So all the germs will rest on top, on the surface of the steak. So long as that's cooked appropriately, you'll be fine.
Okay.
Yeah. I really like the texture, and I can always judge a piece of steak a lot better when it's not cooked too much.
Got you. Okay, so you like your steak like very, very rare.
Oh yeah.
Got you. What are your hobbies outside of drawing?
Well, right now I'm growing plants. I have a couple. I have a big bell pepper that'll be ready in a couple of months to start fruiting, and I have a tomato plant which is slowly making its way to the ceiling. And I really like to grow more, but they are indoor plants, so I have kind of like limited space.
Got you.
But I'm looking forward to having my own fruits of my labor.
Any plans for gardening at all in the future?
Unfortunately, the only kind of gardening I could do would be a box garden. I could
Gotcha.
do it outside, but I don't have like a whole lot of space. I've got like a patio.
Got it.
Um, yeah.
And
Live in a townhome, so.
I feel that. And do you play any games?
Yeah, I finished up Catherine again recently. Um,
Oh, which
and I
version?
they're classic.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah, I love it. I also I also beat Champions of Norath again. That's an EverQuest PS2 game, and if you're ever into EverQuest, PS2 games are great. It's kind of like a bygone thing now, but the games are really good. They're surprisingly enjoyable for just being like a spin-off.
The Champions of Norath?
Mm-hmm.
Of Norath. Oh, wow. Okay. These are old.
Oh yeah, yeah. I was playing those when I was in middle school, but they little jank, I'll admit, but very fun. Great musical score, like super underrated musical score. Um,
I
I
definitely want to
really
like give
appreciate.
one of these a shot. It looks like really like is it like point and click? No.
Mm-mm. Oh, it's a hack and slash RPG.
Oh, proper hack and slash. All right.
Yee.
Huh. Interesting. Because I was thinking about Catherine and like I still really like that game.
Yeah, I keep talking about the voice acting, and I'm in love with how natural everybody sounds.
I really yeah, same here. Vincent's like a very fun character to follow. And my only issue with like the original Catherine was just like the mixing of the audio in the game because some scenes sound very loud and other scenes sound very quiet for some
That
reason.
is true. Yeah, yeah, I understand that. Sorry. Um, but yeah, the mixing can be kind of weird at times. But one thing I appreciate the most is that Catherine herself is easy to listen to. And I don't know what it is about anime VAs, but I don't like most of them. English VAs, it
Hmm.
kind of grate my ears a little bit. She's got a bit of a squeaky voice, but yeah, it's pleasant to listen to. And I really wish I could hear more of that, I guess. Maybe I'd listen to English dubs more often.
Yeah, I think a lot of Atlas dubs tend to be very good, in my personal opinion. Because recently I just played and beat 13 Sentinels Aegis Rim, which was a Vanillaware game that it has a full like translated like English like vocalization for the
Hmm.
entire like dialogue in the game, and it was surprisingly like really well put together. I liked a lot of it, and it didn't like despite the subject matter being very like it had a lot of anime tropes within it.
Hmm.
It wasn't handled in a way where it was like very anime-esque voice acting, if that makes any sense.
Oh no, I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
Where it's like, they're going a little too hard, right?
We need to do this in this way. Yeah,
Yeah.
I I like more down to earth like sort of like representations of characters versus like everything sounding intense all the time.
Yeah.
I think it helps for that game specifically because there's not a lot of the actors do not need to match lip flap at all with that type of game because mostly like visual novel,
Mm,
so they can give more natural type of delivery.
that's good.
Yeah, but yeah,
I e-
and yeah, that puts us around to like 2 hours right now.
Oh
And
yeah.
for anybody, again, just to reiterate, this has been that was the end of the questions, by the way.
Okay.
But for anyone listening, this has been Top Nug on Newgrounds. You can find her on Newgrounds. Type TOPNUGG, no space, and you'll find her there. Or if you want to follow her on Twitter, you type at Fancy Rook, like the chess piece. FANCYROOK. And that's where you can find her. I highly recommend you guys check out her stuff. Funny Burger Fishing was the contest winner for the Sweet 16 contest. And again, another shout out to Kitty Hawk for organizing the whole contest and doling out the prize. And please do check out Nug's other comic at City of the Sun. Just search City of the Sun webcomic on Google. You'll find it. You can find it on Tapas, and you can find it on their own original website. But yeah, thank you for coming on the show.
You're welcome. I had a lot of fun. I like talking. 2
Yeah.
hours just flew right by.
Yeah, I didn't even notice until I had to look at the time. And thank you again. I need to give a shout out to Tom Folk for letting the show go on for as late as it did. And for having everyone on. But yeah, thank you for coming on. I hope you get more success with other comic projects as you go on.
Me too. Thank you for having me on.
Yeah. All right. And that's the end of the show. Adios, amigos. We're going to leave you off with Torikoshi Kuro Worrying Unnecessarily by Sheena Ringo. Goodbye.
Good night.
Bum, 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 bum,
하지
bum,
못했다
bum,
살람
bum, 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 bum,
안돼 hold on
bum, bum,
어떻게 나도 alone
bum, 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 bum,
나의 색깔을요
bum, 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 bum,
지목될 게 느끼리
bum, bum.